Hello and welcome to my podcast on the Amman Valley. My name is Tracy Irvin and I hope you enjoy. My story begins at the foothills of the Black Mountain, where you will find a busy little village called Bryn Amman, which up until the Amman Valley Railway arrived during the latter part of the 19th century was called y Gwter Fawr. This means the big ditch. Sadly, all the industry that used to thrive in Bryn Amman has gone and was recently part of a European regeneration scheme obtaining Category 1 funding to try to breathe some life into the area. One of Bryn Amman's proudest achievements was the building of Bryn Amman Public Hall. This was built from the money obtained from the Miners' Welfare Fund. This was a fund where a penny a week was deducted from the pay of the miners to help their community. The hall, which is now a cinema, opened in 1926 with seating for 1,000 people. Several well-known faces hail from the village, such as the great baritone Delmy Bryn-Jones, the broadcaster Roy Noble, and the incredibly talented brothers singer-songwriter Dafydd Iwan and the late great Hugh Caredig, star of Pobl y Cwm, a popular Welsh soap opera. Across the border from Bryn Amman is Gwaunca Gyrwen, which roughly translated means White Hemlock Heath. All the locals refer to Gwaunca Gyrwen as GCG or the Wine. At the end of the 19th century, there was a successful woolen mill on the Wine. It was called Pwll y Rach Woolen Mill, or Pool of Witches Woolen Mill. And evidence of its water-driven wheel still exists. The Wine boasts a fabulous viaduct that dates back to the 1870s and is still used today by the railways to transport the coal from the open cast in Tarwaith. And until recently, a large hotel named the Cae Gyrwen Arms sat proudly beside the railroad track. Sadly, it has now been replaced by a supermarket. Speaking of coal transportation, back in the 1800s, in order to transport coal from the marshalling yard down in the valley up the slope to the Wine Square, the inclined plane system was used. This was where a big shed was built to house the machinery that allowed a long rope to be attached to the trucks, and a brake system would use the weight of a fully loaded truck to go down the incline and bring the empty one back up as a counterbalance. As in Bryn Amman, several well-known celebrities were born here, such as the great actress Sian Phillips CBE, who starred in many box office hits and West End stage performance and radio and TV. His Grace the Most Reverend Dr. Barry Morgan, who is the Archbishop of Wales. And last, but by no means least, the great Welsh rugby international Gareth Edwards. A road branches off from GCG to a small mining village named Tarwaith, which simply means workhouses. These were built in the 1900s to house the many miners for the pits that surrounded the village. The first successful pit was the Old Pit, which was sunk in the 1870s. This was followed by the Mardy Pit some 10 years later, then by the East and Steer pits. Today the village has the only one remaining bit of industry in the area, that being the open cast coal mine. It also boasts a high quality trotting track, whose patron is none other than Ruth Maddock from the TV show Heidi High. The trotting track was built on the old Mardy coal tip. The village of Cwmgors used to hail a large brickworks and several coal mines, including the last deep mine in the valley that is Abernant Colliery, which was easily recognised by its two great big towers. Across the borders from the Wine we can cross into Garnant. Garnant had mixed industry, with tin works being the main one. The tin plate works opened in 1883 on the site that is now Golwg yr Amman Park, where its foundation stone still stands proudly. Garnant was the location for one of the oldest pits in the area, which was built in the 1830s. This was Garnant Colliery. The newest one of all was the open cast mine, which opened in 1987 and ran until 1992. This was then redeveloped at a cost of nearly £1 million. The newest of all was the open cast mine, which opened in 1987 and ran until 1992. This was then redeveloped at a cost of nearly almost £1 million and is now Garnant Golf Club. As in Bryn Amman, the Miners' Welfare Fund was used to build the Working Men's Hall, which took almost 2 years to build, and opened its doors finally in 1927. During its lifetime, it has been used for many operas, concerts, as a cinema, and even as a private leisure centre. But sadly, more recently, it was used for a shadier usage, that's for cannabis factory. Again, several famous people hail from Garland. John Cale, one of the founder members of the Velvet Underground, an American rock band famous in the 60s and 70s. Howell Bennett, a talented actor of screen and stage. The comedic genius that was Ryan Davies. And of course, the extremely talented Welsh and British international, Shane Williams. Well, I hope you enjoyed my whistle-stop tour of the Amman Valley. I thank you for listening today.